What is up? Welcome to the unofficial Tedeschi Trucks podcast. This is episode number 98, and I am Adam Choi. To follow this show, it's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram and on YouTube. Just search Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. If you're watching, you are already there, so please be sure to subscribe, give the show likes, good comments. I appreciate all that for sure. I'm at Adam Choi on Instagram and Twitter if you want to follow me. And of course, please be sure to subscribe to the show on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. And positive reviews on Apple Podcasts are greatly appreciated and helpful. I appreciate that for sure. I'll give you my spiel on some of my other things going on with my projects, but I'll try to be quick with that because I want to get to today's conversation shortly. People We Love Podcast is my other podcast. At People We Love Podcast on Instagram is the handle for that one. PeopleWeLovePodcast.com is the website. That's been a lot of fun too. What I do is just have casual conversations with people from all walks of life, and they talk about the people who've inspired them in their career and their personal lives and their journey. And that's been a lot of fun. And I've got to talk to some really cool people on that one. In the entertainment business, comedians is definitely been a focus of that one too. I also have a short film out that I wrote and directed. It's a psychological satire inspired by George Orwell's 1984. Theeditedmovie.com is the place to go to check out all things related to that. The movie is online. It's free. It's on YouTube. It's embedded at the website. But more information, of course, about the project itself, which I'm very proud of and hope you guys will check out and enjoy as well. So for today's episode of this podcast, we have Jeff Fink. He's a super fan, I guess is what you would call it. I think he definitely categorizes as that. And he reached out to me some time ago just saying he's a big fan and supports the show and threw his name and out there as an idea. Because he's, like I said, a super fan who's been to a handful of shows, more than a handful, would you say 30 plus now, and in multiple countries, of course, referring to seeing TTB live. He's originally from Houston, but has been in Austin 20 years now, and recalls seeing Ephraim and JJ in the Austin scene back in the day. But I think that's about all I got to say as far as introductions. I think we should just get started with the conversation. So without further ado, here's Jeff Fink. What's up?
Hey, what's up, Adam? Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, for sure. Thank you. I appreciate the time for sure. The ensuing time. How you holding up during whatever year this is?
I'm holding up pretty well. Guess it's 2022. I couldn't believe I booked a work meeting in 2023 like last week. It's tripping me out a little bit, but everything's been good. Everything's been really good, thankfully.
It's something about that like first 2023 thing you note on your calendar, or the first time you have to, I don't know, something. Yeah, it's the January 2023. When you put something in the calendar, I got something in like my friend's wedding is in like May, but the first like life thing, the first like regular life thing, it's life. It's we're all getting closer to our death. Is that what I'm saying? I'm taking it to a dark place right away.
I guess in some ways, yeah. It's just time's moving fast, but also like really slow some days,
Yeah, no, I that actually does make sense to me. And you're, like I was saying, you're in Austin right now.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. We can go back. It's kind of what I ask of people is to tell me about their musical journeys in a sense, and life kind of fills in the gap. So along those lines, why don't you kind of tell me about maybe where you grew up and kind of like maybe a little bit about your family background and we'll get into what music was around and the role that music played in your life, really from as early as you can remember. So I'll kind of give you the floor to tell me that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like you said, I grew up in Houston. So my dad actually had various different bands and played drums. So music was always around the house. He and my mom had a bunch of records. So I always remember if I wanted to listen to music, I would get out his record player, I'd pull out a record, and I'd just start checking stuff out. So music was always around. I remember it was like 4th of July parties, he'd have these jam sessions, and it'd be him and his friend on guitar, somebody else playing piano and bass, and they just mostly like Beatles covers, but they'd and some Bee Gees, but they just jam for hours. Those are some of my favorite memories, and yeah, I just grew up in Houston. It's pretty fortunate. I have two sisters, and had grandparents all in my life, and a lot of family, a lot of friends around, and um, yeah, just a lot of good times, a lot of music. And then I started playing drums around 13 or 14, and just played for fun. I had a Jimi Hendrix cover band. This is what we did for a little while. Um, and then, yeah, and then I moved to Austin. The intention was to go to school here, but then I ended up finding work, and just kind of stayed here for the last 20 years and just loving it here. Met my wife about 7 years ago and been married for almost 6 years now.
Very cool. I appreciate you sharing all that, and we'll unwrap and unpack that. I feel like I could go in a number of directions with all of that. I'm curious actually about your grandparents, because you said they were around. Did you have all four grandparents for like some significant period of your life, or maybe still do?
Oh, for a little bit. Only my grandmother. She's almost 95. She's like super spry. But I'd say my grandparents on my dad's side were around until I was about 5, and then my grandfather until I was about 10, and then my grandma's still been around. She's like one of the smartest, sharpest people. She's always like aware of what's going on in the world, and like she asked me about the Taylor Swift Ticketmaster thing last time I saw her at Thanksgiving. So she's just always teaching me to keep learning, and but yeah, I just have fond memories of all of them.
That's very cool. Yeah, another reason I asked that, because honestly, like I feel like and I guess my sister would be included in that too. Like as far as like having all four of our grandparents alive into our like teens, like even early adulthood, it was kind of like I feel like it's unheard of. Like, and so we're really blessed in that regard. So I can relate to
Yeah,
the stuff about you being close, or having a relationship with your grandparents, and also maybe not the parties or the big jam sessions, but my dad and my family did have like a record collection, and I remember he didn't bust out the records too often, but I mean obviously music was always around the house and cars and stuff, but like when he break out the vinyl, those were kind of fun times. And again, playing, I remember Beatles and Rolling Stones, and kind of exposing me to that, which I got more into kind of later in life, I suppose, but not too much later. So from early on in your life, like you always remember these sort of your dad's jam sessions happening at the house? Was that always a thing that you remember? Do you remember a time when that was not happening?
um
Like how old were you?
yeah, I definitely remember a time it wasn't happening, but it's a big one that stands out to me. I called him Uncle Brad, but it was his really good friend, and they had a band, and Uncle Brad played guitar, and then my dad played drums, and then there was a bunch of rotating folks, and it was Brad's birthday. And so for Brad's birthday every year, he would always say, we're going to have a jam session. And it would just be a barbecue cookout. I feel like there was just tons of food. And I remember just sitting on the floor watching them, just like in awe at like 5, like, what is this music thing? And just drawn to it. And it stood out as some of the like happiest fun times. And then one day I was like, I want to try the drums on
Yeah.
here. Made a lot of noise. But they even let me sit in on a couple of songs, even though I probably messed them up at that time. But just kind of gave me a shot. And yeah, and it happened till it probably was like from, I don't know, 5 to like 15, because they stopped doing them for a little while.
Yeah, life gets in the way. I get that. Um, did your friends or other kids in the neighborhood, what did they all think of like your dad and the family, playing music? Did they know about that or anything like like that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. was really good friends growing up with Brad's like nephew. So we all kind of knew about it, and Brad's sister, my friend's mom, would sing a bunch. The neighborhood, though, I don't think it was until like high school when I actually had like in middle school a little bit where in middle school I had a neighbor that was also playing music, and we played a little bit. So we were making a little bit, a little bit of a ruckus. And then in high school, I'd say it was more so like my friends would come over, we'd start playing together. They were playing guitar, and then my dad would want to like sit in and play and, jump in, or he'd just want to hang out and watch and listen. And so of course he'd, tell some stories or talk about stuff he'd like to play.
Very cool. Yeah, it sounds like the people who were interested or the people who gravitated towards you and your family and friends and friends of friends. That's interesting. That's cool. Were you ever interested in other instruments besides drums growing up? Even in like elementary school, you'd be like, oh, maybe I'll play guitar. Was it just, obviously it makes sense why you chose drums, of course, but.
Yeah, I think it was my dad. I want to, make him
Do it.
proud and follow after my dad. So I think I was really like pulled to the drums. Something about guitar though has always interested me. I've tried like picking it up. I've tried playing it. For some reason it's always been hard to, and I'm left-handed, so it's always been a little tricky for me to pick it up. And left-handed's a little bit harder of a barrier when you're like younger. The right-handed stuff's just what everyone's kind of throwing at you. So for whatever reason, I didn't get into it. But when I like talk about like feeling music, for some reason the guitar, well, it's probably a lot of different reasons, but the guitar pulls me in. I'll watch and be in awe of drummers, and the guitar is like always what pulls me into music.
Yeah, no, I feel that for sure. Um, when you were like in elementary school, you were kind of talking about your family's musical influences a little bit, but what were you kind of like listening to or into? Were you just kind of a sponge for everything around you, be it like the Beatles and Eric Clapton stuff that your dad was playing, or were you listening to like current music, top 40, like where even into elementary school, middle school, or what, as a kid?
Yeah, it was a little bit of everything. I love your questions. Very introspective for me. Yeah, I was listening to everything. So like during middle school, I had like a Nirvana and like alternative rock, like Bush. Like I was really into that for a little while. There was always a theme of like oldies because my parents just always had oldies around. I think they were just definitely like, you got to listen to this stuff. And I remember fondly listening to the Layla and Assorted Love songs and loving like Key to the Highway and Keep on Growing. So, and then all the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, like all that stuff was like always there, but I would dip in and out of different things like Nirvana for a little while. I remember going to like one of my first live shows was probably like eighth grade, maybe. I asked my dad to take me to see Dave Matthews. He took me to Dave Matthews Band, and I was like amazed by Carter Beauford. I was like, I still haven't been able to figure it out, but I was like, I want to be able to do that one day. So Dave Matthews for a little while, and then a lot of like popular stuff during that time. And then probably some point around 16, 17, later in high school, like I dropped into like all the jam band stuff, like Fish and Grateful Dead, and went down all those tracks and went down, like followed and then in my early 20s, I'd say I followed like a blues kind of, was like BB King, Buddy Guy, trying to figure all that stuff out.
I'm always interested to hear people's like journeys in terms of their listening, and I feel like I don't know. I could be wrong about this, but like when you say you like go through these phases, it's like when you're kind of like focused on going through their discography or their music or whatever. Like you're like in a phase, but that doesn't mean like once you sort of leave the phase that you don't like this music anymore. I'm guessing you still appreciate Nirvana and jam bands, and of course BB King. even if you're like right now, maybe you're focused heavy focused on some other band or bands or something like that. Is that an accurate way of kind of like looking at that?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And like you said, it depends on like what I'm doing, what kind of mood I'm in.
Sure.
I love putting on jazz stuff. I like a lot of like spiritual type music, not like religious, like just like more like spiritual kind of music, like chants and stuff like that.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, so I'll dip around depending on what's kind of going on. Or I've been digging Billy Strings lately. I don't know if you've checked him out.
I know of him, but no, I haven't really dove deep yet. Yeah. I know people
Yeah,
rave.
that's a new one. Yeah. He's getting popular right now, but that's a new one I've been checking out, like bluegrass stuff, like him, Molly Tuttle, folks like that.
Yeah,
You heard
no,
them
because
all?
I feel like I'm kind of repulsed by the music fan who's like sort of fickle and says, "Oh, I don't like so and so artist anymore. Like I used to listen to them, but now I never listen to them. I don't like them anymore. They're not cool anymore." Like any combination of what I'm just like, this stuff is like kind of like, are you a real music fan? Because I don't know. I still like the Monkees.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
though
yeah.
I do like TTB more than the Monkees, but I still like the Monkees.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Like, I'm not gonna. There's some stuff that I probably won't go to like shows, but like I even had like
Sure.
a metal phase for a little while. I had a buddy that was playing in a metal band, and he just was like the guy when I was working here in Austin, maybe like 10 years ago, that we just ended up jamming. And so like he was taking me to some like really heavy metal shows I'd never been to, but still had a blast. And those drummers are so fast. It was just like really fun to watch them.
Yeah, it's like watching a sport.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. They're sweating so much. Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. Okay, so you're in high school, middle school, you're playing in some bands, you kind of or in with your friends, and music's a part of your life. Where were we kind of headed, either musically or professionally, like obviously we were headed to Austin, but I'll kind of let you give me the details of where you were at in life at that point and your
Yeah.
music.
Music never really took, yeah, and musically for profession never really took off. It kind of stayed in this like novice for fun, being a great outlet. And I've kind of dipped back in and out here and there. And when I came to Austin, the plan was to go to school, and then I ended up finding a job at Dell, which is a big company here, and got into technology sales, and that's ended up being pretty successful for me to pay the bills and get to go to all the shows I want to go to. So I was there for about 4 years, and then jumped around to different software companies and just in sales and business development. And that's helped me stay here and in Austin and be able to afford the prices. Yeah. And like get to go see all the shows I want to see at the same time. And then musically, I'd say this is an interesting thing about, must have been seven years ago. Or no, yeah, about 6 or 7 years ago, I came up with this idea. I was really starting to do like research on ways that music has brought humankind together. And so I was just kind of like retracing all these, like any of the tough times I had growing up, music was the thing that I went to, right? And it brought me connection to myself, to other people, like something bigger than myself. Like I remember if I had a sad day or struggling with something growing up, I'd be really happy just going in my room alone, putting on one of those records. And so I was trying to figure out like where are all these stories and instances of where music's brought us together. And so I founded this 501c3 with the purpose to preserve and celebrate this boundless power of music to bring people together. So we've been able to put on a few, like 3 or 4 different events since I've started it. But that's kind of become a little like side passion project. Probably the thing I'm most most closely to music that I like actually work on.
That is super cool. What is that called again? That
It's
program?
called United Music
Organization?
Experience.
And the mission is to share the power of music and how it connects. I'll let you articulate it.
Yeah, no, you're at it. Sharing the boundless power of music to unite humankind.
Very cool. That
Yeah.
I suppose that's a noble thought and gesture that I would definitely support for sure. I want to say before I forget, like, because I feel like we're kind of getting late 90s, early 2000s ish. So I'll let you jump in and tell me whenever you discovered Derek Susan, or maybe your TTB story, like maybe it came through the Austin scene. So when we get to that point, whenever that is, I kind of want to, we'll definitely get more into, of course, the TTB stuff. But along the Austin kind of like timeline, I'll kind of let you continue the journey with wherever we are chronologically.
Yeah, no, it's right around there. So like when I fast forwarded to the music thing to kind of fill in that part of it, we can jump into it. So I would have moved here in 2000, like right at the beginning of 2003, and 2005, Austin City Limits Music Festival was here. It was one of the early years, and I remember going, and Allman Brothers were playing, and I knew Allman Brothers. I didn't know anything about Derek, and I didn't know anything about him playing in Allman Brothers, but I knew like all the popular Allman Brothers stuff. And I remember my friend kept telling me, he was at University of Colorado in Boulder, and he came in town when we were going to ACL together, and he just kept telling me, you got to see this guitar player with Allman Brothers. And I didn't think much of it. And I just remember I didn't say a word for the whole hour set and just watched him. It was just in awe, and my like jaw dropped, and neither of us said a word to each other for a full hour. And then we looked at each other afterwards and just like, what just happened? And that was my first interaction. And that kind of turned the spark on. Like, I got to go see this guy play as much as possible. I want to feel that again, and hear that over and over. So that's what started it. And then it just kept going. So I went to Bonnaroo in 2008, and Derek Trucks Band was playing. So they were playing a set there, and got to see Derek Trucks Band. And then I went to the Clapton's Crossroad Festival in Chicago in 2010. And that was when, I guess it was kind of Soul Stew Revival. I don't really know what it was.
I don't think, or Derek Trucks Band and Susan Tedeschi Band, or
Yeah.
I forget what it was, but it wasn't officially Tedeschi Trucks Band. I don't think that Tedeschi Trucks Band has played Crossroads Festival.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't Tedeschi Trucks. It was like before. I don't know what it was, but it was Derek and Susan, and then I think it was Jan Rico Scott, and then I think there were people from Clapton's band. Like I think Chris Layton, or I can't remember who all it was. Maybe Doyle Bromhall was there, but I remember seeing them there, and that was like the big reason I wanted to go. And it was an awesome show. There was like BB King, Eric Clapton, and like Robert Cray played, just like them three by themselves at the end of the show, which was super amazing to get to see that.
Bet.
Yeah.
I've watched a handful of these videos and whatnot over the years for sure. I get my Crossroads years confused. So had you heard of, before the 2005 show the Allman Brothers show that you went to, were you a big Allman Brothers fan, or did you seen them previously without Derek in the lineup? And did you like kind of like hear of Derek's music or his name before? And then it sounds like just like seeing the live performance and hearing the live performance was like such a huge moment. Like that it was like, listening is amazing, obviously, but like when you're seeing it live and hearing it live, that can be transcendent. And is that kind of like how it played out? Because I imagine you knew of the Allman Brothers and their music, obviously, beforehand.
Yeah, that was it. I just knew of Allman Brothers. I knew of their music, and I wasn't like a super fan of them, or I hadn't seen them live at all.
You knew their hits is kind of, you know, their
right.
hits. That's kind
Yeah.
of like that's kind of like me previously as well. It's kind of like knowing
Yeah.
their hits, but then maybe getting deeper into it, obviously later.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what it was like. And then I saw it and saw Derek and was like, holy crap. And like, I'm like looking him up and researching and trying to figure out how do I see him again as soon as that was over.
Damn, very cool. And oh, because that was 2000. That was 2005.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then you saw him a bunch of times after that. And then in 2010, you said the Crossroads with Susan. That must have been awesome. What else do you remember anything else from that? Well, you kind of told me about it, but as far as like seeing Susan and Derek, did you think that they would be a full-time band or like form, you know, something official at that? Maybe it was official at that point that they had decided.
I don't think I even knew that they were like a
Couple.
couple or that
Yeah.
they played together. I was just like, who's this awesome like woman playing with Derek and trying to figure that out.
Right.
I was still like, I was on the, you know, the Derek camp intro through there. So I was just still real fascinated by him. And I don't think it was until like a year after that when I found out that they were formed. And then I was like, oh, that's what I saw. I saw like the beginnings of that last year. Whenever what was the first album that they came out with? Was it
Revelator?
The Revelator?
Or they had a live album. I think the live album came before that, but their first studio album was Revelator.
Revelator. Okay.
The live album definitely came first.
Okay. It was some album. I can't remember. Some album came out, and I remember having like this aha moment of like, oh, that's what I was starting to see at Crossroads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff. And in some ways that makes me like think that like that's a testament to the power but like, yeah, I guess the power of the music itself. Like it's like you dove so far into like I don't have time to figure out who these people are and like if they're related and or they're mad. Like I'm just focusing. I just want to listen to the music. I just want to go to the shows and do the music. I don't care like what they're about their personal lives. I'll figure that out like, you know, a year from now. Like I respect that as a music fan. Like, you know, so like, and that I'm kind of like that sometimes the way I'm listening. Like I won't hear the lyrics until like a year later. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That's kind of
Yes.
That's kind of poetic. I've been too busy I'm still processing what I'm hearing on guitar and drums and bass and like the other elements to like even like realize how like poetic some of the lyrics might be. Like, oh, 3 years later, oh that's really deep. And that we're always still. That's why I love doing this because I'm just like appreciating the band on like deeper and deeper levels, and that just makes like I guess the listening experience, the whole experience of like, you know, I don't know, being a part of this, you know, it all makes it all better, I guess.
Yeah.
It's all fun for sure. But I'll let you continue on your journey, as TTB started to form and where you kind of sounds like you were there right from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, all of what you just said resonates with me a lot. I have that experience too, where I don't catch the lyrics until years in, and I've also been enjoying listening to this from the same reason, just getting to hear everyone talk about their experience and make a more full experience of enjoying this band. So no, thank you for that. I didn't want to let that pass by without recognizing that. Um, so let's see. All right. So after 2000, so 2010, Clapton, Crossroads. I don't remember when I know they started coming to Austin. I want to say it must have been 2012, 2013. And it was before. So there's a jazz club here in Austin called Elephant Room. It's right on. Have you been to Austin before?
I have not.
Okay, well, if you come here, whenever you come here, come visit. I'll take you to Elephant Room. It's right on like Main Street, Congress, leads up to where the Capitol is. It's like underground little jazz bar. There's actually a picture I've seen of like Susan Tedeschi on the wall in there. But Ephraim plays, I don't know how long he's been doing it, but he plays his own little set there. He's probably been doing it for 15, 20 years. I don't, I, I know I'd seen him there a couple of times. He'd won like Austin's Best Musician of the Year. And so I'd kind of checked him out. And I remember just similar kind of thing. Like he wasn't in the band yet, but then I remember seeing him in the band. And then I got even more excited. And then I was like, anytime they were not on tour, I was like, I got to like looking up and seeing if he's playing. And he's playing like Tuesdays. I think it's Tuesdays and Saturdays. Every time they're not like their tour breaks, and he's back in Austin, and it's like days after their tour ends, he's like back in there playing. It's kind of amazing. So I've gotten to catch him there. JJ Johnson has played there a few times. He's been in and out of Gary Clark's band, and he's in Gary Clark Jr.'s band again. So I've been able to catch him. Just catching Gary Clark plays at this place called Antone's, which is where like Muddy Waters came through. Janis Joplin played at. Stevie Ray Vaughan got his start there. You'd love that spot too. 300 person venue, super small little blues bar. He has ownership in it now. And right when the pandemic was ending, Gary Clark was playing some shows there. And they're probably like 250, 300 people. He announced it like 2 days before. And I want to say that was when I saw JJ. Like JJ showed up on the drums, and I was like, "What? He's playing with Gary now." So, and he's been all throughout the kind of Austin drum like scene as well. So I'm trying to remember where else I've seen him, but that's how I've caught those guys in the Austin scene. And then I think it must have been 2012 or 13 when I think after Crossroads, I think was the first time they actually came through Austin, Tedeschi Trucks Band, and I got to see them. And then I started realizing it's I don't know if it's like this on the West Coast too, but not everyone. Texas is kind of big, so if you're a touring band and you're gonna go through Texas, like you gotta. I don't know the intricacies of it, but it's a long travel to go through Texas, and you got to hit a few places. It's not as like consistent as if you hit like the whole East Coast. I would say, or like going through like the middle of the U.S., like through Missouri and Chicago. There's a bunch of bigger cities that are closer together. So I noticed that we don't get a lot of major acts. We haven't always gotten coming through Austin. Sometimes they'll hit Houston, sometimes they'll hit Dallas, sometimes they'll just skip Texas. So I started realizing, all right, I'm gonna have to travel if I want to see them like every year. So then I call them away shows, like kind of like if you like a sports or a team, like go to the away games. So I was like, I got to go to some away shows. So that's when it started kicking off. And let's see. I mean, I went on one trip to I saw some shows that were going on in Salt Lake City and Boise, and I wanted to go check out that part of the world. So
you fly there. Yeah.
Yeah. That part of the country. And, I've been a remote employee for the last 10 years. So it's kind of been easy for me to do the trips like that. I went to San Francisco. My friend was living out there, and I went to the Bill Graham. It was with Black Crowes. They were playing, and it was the Bill Graham Civic Center.
Yeah, the not the Fox.
No, it's Bill Graham's. It's
they play with the Black Crowes at the Fox Theater for the DVDs also, I think.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And they're not even from there. They're not. Black Crowes are not from Bay Area. I guess they just happen to work out that way or something.
They connected there. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and then I let's see where else I went to. Oh, that was a fun one. I had a bunch of friends that were going to. It was more like EDM, Tomorrowland in Boom in Belgium, and I really kind of like what we talked about earlier. I've kind of always been fascinated about different types of music. So, and they'd been talking about this for forever, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go with y'all. I want to see what this is all about. And it was a beautiful experience. But I started looking at it, and I'm like, all right, I'm going all the way over to Europe. The weekend before was the North Sea Jazz Festival in Rotterdam, and Tedeschi Trucks Band was playing there, and then they were playing 2 shows during the week in Germany. So I just decided,
What
all
year
right.
was that? What year was that?
Oh, that was, I think it was 2015.
Yeah.
If
Mhm.
I'm tracking right. Yeah. We'll double check. I think it was 2015. They played North Sea Jazz Festival, and that was a blast. And then saw them they played at this, it was like the Mercedes dealership has this like little amphitheater out on the back side of it, and they have shows there. And they do like these Mercedes Air Open shows apparently every summer. So I caught that show and then met up with my friends in Belgium. Um, so that was a blast. And then right when the pandemic ended, I went to Jacksonville to see the first 2 shows that they played there when it was just the Tedeschi Trucks.
Yeah, the ones I was the most jealous perhaps I've ever been of fans, because it was so long without like a real full band show, and I'm like, oh, I want to. I seriously thought about like, oh, maybe I should go out to like that, because that's really special stuff. But I think that there were a couple of tapers there, so I didn't catch the audio of those. But yeah, that's super cool that you went out there.
Yeah, it was really good. I've done a good job of like coupling some of these shows. Like one of my friends lives out in Jacksonville. I've been talking about visiting him for forever, so that worked out really well. Yeah, that was
I
neat.
feel. I was gonna say I kind of feel like the same thing, because some people are like, oh, so here's my vacation, and if TTB happens to be or something else happens to be happening at the same time as when I'm gonna be at the place, like I'll consider it. For people like me and you, it's like, oh, TTB is here, I'm gonna go there. Let's see whatever else happens to be going on at the same time, or whoever else I know happens to be living there, or I kind of what I mean. It's like kind of we're making our decisions and our plans based around TTB. Before we go too far ahead, I kind of want to ask you some questions about some of what you've already
Yeah.
mentioned. Um, um, did you see? It sounds like you saw Ephraim before he joined TTB, because I actually pulled up that like bar graph thing of when everybody came in and out of the band, and I think he came in 2015, the middle of 2015. It looks like I'm
Okay.
assuming this is accurate. So did you saw him before he was even in TTB, coming up in the Austin scene or something like that, or in that? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. Yeah, I'm trying to put it all together, and I don't.
That's fuzzy. It's all good. I was
Yeah,
just curious because that'd be kind of cool, if that's the case. But
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't know for sure. But I don't know for sure. It's hard to say. But I definitely remember hearing about him because he gets all these like Miles Davis comparisons, and he was winning. There's like this Austin Music Awards that we have here, and he was winning those. And I want to say that was before Tedeschi Trucks Band.
it's
Um,
possible, obviously, because JJ and him he was JJ. I'm guessing was some kind of connection to TTB, so maybe you'd seen them play together or something. I don't know. Anyway,
yeah,
it's all good. Um, I guess up to this point, like, because up until like even like 2015, from 2005 to 2015, had you had any interactions with Derek or Susan or any members of TTB, even if it's just saying hello or after a show or before a show? Like, what has been your personal reaction with or personal interaction?
yeah. I haven't. When I was it was in Germany. I think I was so nervous. I think I just said hi to it was Mark. That he was walking to the bus, and I think a bunch of his family lived out there, and he was saying that, oh, he loves coming out here. Got to see a lot of his family that was nearby. I kind of remember having that conversation, and then this would have been in the last. I'm trying to. It's all blending together with the pandemic, but this would have been in the last. Either it was right before or right after. I remember at that Elephant Room, there was a show where Ephraim and JJ played, and I was talking to JJ afterwards, because he was still in the band at that point, so it would have been before he left. Because I remember I kept telling him, like, I was kept asking like why they didn't play at different venues in Austin that I like would love to see them play at. And he was just like, I don't know, I don't do that stuff. Like somebody else does that stuff in the band. He's like, but that would be cool to play there.
Well, you go tell them what I'm telling you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But he was just so sweet, man, and so friendly, and like easy to talk to, and like open to talk. Wasn't like, just real friendly and just good guy.
Yeah, seemed to have a good energy, has a good energy to him, for sure too. What about a little more about the European shows, the shows in Europe? Do you notice the audiences are different, the experience is different? What's the difference between those and the American shows, if anything, from your perspective?
Everybody's in general, I feel like everybody is at a different, like, I don't mean this in any like harmful way against um like the American experience, but I feel like there's another level of like appreciation of the the musicality of what you're listening to, and people just seem way more like tuned in, like they're watching a show rather than they're at like a. Sometimes there's a level of like I'm at like a party, kind of. I'm half at a party, half at a concert kind of thing, vibe that I get like at most American shows. But in Europe, there seems to be like they're very in tune with like the musicality of things, and just like this appreciation of like what's transpiring musically.
Yeah, but yeah, that makes sense, and that's fair. I'm not offended by it as an American.
Yeah, I'm an American, so yeah.
Interesting though. Um, well, what about from I guess 2015 on, or I mean, we could even dive more into like some of the music stuff specifically, because by now like a couple of albums have come out, and a lot of their songs. If you wanted to talk about either continue on the journey, or give me some highlights of songs or album, I don't know. We could go in so many different directions and talk all day about this stuff. I'm
Yeah, for
sure.
sure. I don't know.
Were they
We
your favorite? I was gonna ask you if were they your favorite band at this point? If you're traveling the cities, I mean, it seems like it's almost assumed, or just like either way, you love them enough to fly to other cities. So that kind of definitely says something, even if they're not your number one all time favorite band, unquestioned. I won't be mad if that's not the case.
Yeah, I have trouble with the what music do you listen to, or what's your favorite band? Um, like kind of like what we're talking about, depending on the mood. But it's pretty easy for me to say, no matter what, I'm always in the Tedeschi Trucks Band. I'm tracking what's going on there. I'm trying to go to a show, staying as close to it as possible. And then I kind of float around everywhere else. So yeah, I'd say at that point, yeah, probably by 2012, maybe they're like 2013, like early. I'm pretty into Tedeschi Trucks Band, and they're the main band I'm wanting to follow.
I think a big part of that is because their music is so sustainable, because it's so eclectic and diverse within their own catalog. And as we know, they've added quite a bit to it, and quite a bit to it this past year with the I Am the Moon project. And like you said, we as humans like to listen to music sometimes, or even just like without even knowing it, we'll put on songs, or songs will find us that fit our mood. And because of TTB's talent and hard work and effort and dedication and interest in playing such eclectic, diverse music, it kind of is like, for me, obviously, I can listen to it every day. And I feel like that's the case for a lot of other people out there. And that's, a testament to them. And they also like cover a lot of the genres, and sometimes literally cover
Yeah.
some of the genres and the artists that you've talked about as far as like your influence. So it's like you get a little BB King, you get a little jazz, you get maybe not metal, but they will rock the house, so to speak. with some like show-stopping, hard giant, hard rollicking music. Like I'm just thinking of like when they do like Soul Sacrifice or something like that.
Yeah,
It kind of does have a little bit of, obviously it's a more of a Latin flair to it with being
right.
Santana, but it has that like sort of a heavier element to it. So I think TTB like covers so many bases and you get so many different types of music within what they do that like I could listen all day long and not get sick of it. I'll just put on a different TTB song or something else if I had to
Yeah,
at most.
yeah, totally. A lot of you make me think about the Indian classical kind of influences with Derek and the slide and some of those sounds he's making. They hit me in the gut, like, and
Yeah.
pull me in a way, and it kind of moves all over, but it usually like hits me in the gut, and then um, I'm just kind of sucked in, right, like in that world,
Yeah,
and just kind of like take me wherever we're gonna go here.
yeah, he's got him and Susan in the band. They have your soul on the string. Is kind of how I like to
Mm.
describe it in a lot of ways. Yeah, no, they're just amazing. I forgot what I was gonna say because I'm like so like enamored with all the stuff we're talking about the band. Yeah, no, they're amazing, special for sure.
Yeah, you remind me like one of the things I try and like pick up on. I think it was on one of the last shows the guys were calling it out on. I guess the would have been the DC shows that they had heard it, but I noticed it at one of the shows at the Beacon this year, which were my first Beacon shows. But the Idle Wind, they're like teasing the Maki Madni or the Sahib Terry um, from Derek Trucks Band. Like they're like teasing it in there, and it's like it's in one of the solos. He's like starting to he like drops into it, and oh, that was like one of my favorite songs. I listened to that song from Derek Trucks when I was getting into him like on repeat. So that was like super fun to notice that was going on, um, and an Idle Win, which is probably one of my favorite songs. You got me thinking about like favorite songs like that and Bound for Glory. It kind of reminds me of like their version. This is in my head, but their version of like a Keep on Growing kind of thing. It's like a cheerful.
Yeah, thematically, certainly,
Yeah,
I would say, sure,
yeah,
in
exactly.
some ways. Resiliency is definitely a theme with this band within their songs and within their story and their journey for sure. Just based on the lineup changes and changes within the band and some of the losses they've suffered over the years. Yeah, so like resiliency is definitely a big part of it for sure. I remember you were saying before about some people go to a show and it's more about partying and other people are more about like appreciating like the musicality and the musicianship, but I think like also like the emotional reaction and like the emotional experience is like a big part of it, and that may be the like how I take in a show more than even like appreciate, like obviously I appreciate the music and I want to have fun too at the show and do, but like I think I try to like strike a good balance, not try to, but like just do strike a good balance between having a good time, appreciating the musical aspect. I play a little guitar, so I kind of like can appreciate, some of the deeper aspects of like some of the theory and whatever, some of the things going on from that standpoint. But the emotional thing, like you were saying, it hits you in the gut. It's the
Mm.
goosebumps. It's the tears too, of course.
Yeah.
It's even like the laughter and the joy and all that. Like TTB's music covers like a show, especially going to a show, like you will feel like the entire range of emotions that night. Certainly, that's why you're kind of like you're a little bit like emotionally exhausted, kind in some ways by the end of the night. It's like a whole like you went through this experience, but you feel like you needed it at the same time.
Mm. Yeah, no, 100%. I was going to ask you about this, and you remind me of the new cover that they're doing, the Sign of the Times, and
Yeah.
I don't know. An Angel from Montgomery, whenever they get into that, I always get a little teary-eyed no matter how many times I hear it. I don't know what is going on with Sign of the Times. I've never heard it before until they covered it. I started looking up the lyrics afterwards, tried to listen to Harry Styles' version a little bit. But whenever I put on the recording, even when I heard it live, like I just started crying. I don't know what's going on with that song, but it lets me let go of whatever like grief I've been holding on to.
That's something, yeah, and you sometimes don't even know that you have these feelings inside of you that need to get out, and that's a service that they're providing in some regards, because like you can't just like, I don't know, it is kind of like guaranteed emotional sort of release in some ways, in whatever way that you're needing at the time, I guess. And like I think a lot of people out there who are hardcore fans will definitely be able to relate to that, even if maybe it's not that specific song, but having that experience listening to whatever TTB song it may be. I get that, and I'm sure other people understand and appreciate, and you sharing that for sure.
Yeah, no, I hope so. Yeah, I've been trying not to like think too hard about it and just let it be. And something about like it's for sure. Like no matter what, if I put on the YouTube recording of that, there's gonna be some tears. Something about that, and it just hits the grief. But it is a service, like you said, and it's probably part of what brings me back. Like Bound for Glory, I wish I knew how. Like those ones, like always bring these like huge smiles where my face is hurting afterwards, like in a
And
good way.
yeah, and the thing is, it doesn't have to be someone like to elicit those feelings. That one doesn't have to be someone who's followed the band for
Right.
14 years and knows everything about them and goes to see Ephraim play in small like you don't have to be like on that type of level like me or you per se, like the first timer who walks in there is going to be floored by Midnight in Harlem.
Oh, dude, total. So yeah, this is a fun story. So one of my like favorite things is trying to like turn friends on to Tedeschi Trucks Band, and it's kind of like I could probably get better at it, but it's kind of tricky figuring out like what's the song that based off of what they listen to that might
Yeah,
be
exactly.
people, you know.
I got people got mad at me because I was suggesting certain songs from I Am the Moon to people, and they're like, "You gotta just listen to the whole thing in order. You just gotta tell them just listen to the whole thing in
Uh,
order." I'm like, "Nah, maybe this person doesn't like know every song. I want to send them somehow first. I want to send them. Yeah, this is a Passaquan person, you know. I
yeah.
mean,
Oh
you
yeah,
know."
totally. You gotta meet the audience where they're at.
And then let
So
them find the rest on their own.
Oh yeah, totally. So you'll like this. So I have a work. So this is another theme of my like some of the shows I've seen. So I had a work thing to go to in Nashville in probably like 2000 before the pandemic. It would have been 2019, and it was like Thursday, Friday meetings, and every single time I go on any kind of work travel, I always check what shows are going on there like that week, and if I can like, that's when I like I have to go for that. But I'm always checking for shows, Tedeschi Trucks or anything. And so sure enough, Tedeschi Trucks is playing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Ryman, and I'd never been to the Ryman, so like I want to go to these shows. So extended my trip, bought those tickets. I'm going to the work stuff with my boss at the time, and telling him about it. I'm inviting him if you want. Cool guy, so I'm like inviting him, seeing if he wants to like hang out for the weekend or at least like Friday night. And he had to get back to his family. He lives in Philadelphia, so he never came. But he was like real supportive of me going, and he like told me to leave the stuff like work stuff we were doing early Friday because he saw how excited I was. Like really sweet, but didn't know anything about Tedeschi Trucks Band. And so I like a week later, I get a text from him with a picture that says, "Hey, Tedeschi Trucks Band came on, and it was Midnight in Harlem on his like Sirius XM." He's like, "Dude, this is really good. I should have stayed with you." And I was like, "Yeah." And I wasn't like pushing too hard. And then I think I sent him Bound for Glory like another week later, and he's like, "Whoa!" Like he's starting to get like really into it. And then sure enough, he sent me this last tour. They were in Philadelphia, and I think it was this summer. And he went to a show finally, and took like his wife and a bunch of friends, and sent me like video of Midnight in Harlem. It was like, I'm having goosebumps right now. This is like, kept feeling like he missed out on the Ryman shows, but he was like, this is amazing.
Very cool. Yeah. I guess I feel like I haven't converted too many people, but I've definitely converted a few, and everyone who's been to a show with me or who I share their music with, like, definitely appreciates it at the very least, and appreciates the musicianship. And like you said, like, some people connect to maybe some songs more than others. But yeah, people who I've a few have that I've been like, oh, you definitely need to check them out, and that I'm not like people I'm not like close with, and then they'll like text me, rest me, oh, so I did get tickets to see them, and it was a great show. Like, I've had a few of those experiences, like, not from the podcast, just from people in my personal life too, who like, who don't know TTB at all, eventually became fans and having great times at shows for sure. What else do we need to cover from 2016, 17, 8 to the present? Any other highlights, interactions with band members? Anything you want to talk about as far as the music itself? I mean, I'm happy to go in any direction you want to. I like just kind of like listening to others tell me about their love for TTB and about their experiences with the band.
Yeah. Well, while we're on it, I'll jump into a few things you're making me think of. I got to give my friend. So I've only had two friends I've been able to turn on to Tedeschi Trucks. I stopped trying after like the first 5 years where I was like trying really hard. And then two magically came up with my boss, Ron. And then my friend, Sam, we started working together during the pandemic, and we were talking about music, and I kept talking about Tedeschi Trucks Band. He's in Omaha, and sure enough, he saw them. And I think I listened to him for like 45 minutes afterward, just giving me a recap of the show. And just like probably how you feel every time doing this.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, did you record that? Can I use that as an episode? Because I could always use content that's in the can.
I should, right? It's kind of fun listening to maybe there's an idea, but it was really fun listening to someone first time seeing Tedeschi Trucks and like processing everything out loud of like what just happened. Like,
well, there are some videos out there where they do those reaction type videos, and I guess those are mostly people who probably don't know anything about the band, or sometimes are younger, but not necessarily younger. But yeah, you're referring to someone who doesn't know anything about the band and has never seen them or heard them, and just goes to a show, or they kind of know something, or just any first time show.
First time show, he checked him out. He checked out all the albums. I'd kind of turned him on to it, and
yeah, so he wasn't going in totally blind. I got you.
Right, yeah,
but still first show,
totally blind, but loved it. Okay, I had to slip that in and give.
No, that's actually, I mean, that's something I definitely want to do more, and I'm going to reach out to a bunch of people. Maybe yourself too, as well, can come back on again early next year, because I bet you're going to show in the first couple of months of the year. It wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, like I that's a big, really kind of like, in some regards, maybe the main thing I want to do with the show is continue to talk to fans and get like boots on the ground recaps of shows, just to kind of like live tiny bit vicariously through like other people's experiences. Because like, even if I don't have a recording available from like a tape or of audio that I can listen to before I get a chance to talk to someone about a recap, I know all the songs. I know what do I look worried sounds like. I know what that makes me feel like. I could talk about that and hear you talk about the version and ask questions about it. Like, that's definitely something I want to continue. But yes, someone who's a fan of TTB already, who knows a fair amount about them and is emotionally invested, and then goes to their first show, that I think that is definitely breeding ground for a great conversation, a great interview, because that person is like going to be blown away and is already a passionate fan who can probably speak articulately to some degree about the band. So like, feel free to refer people to me anytime. But you were going to go on to another story or something like that.
No, you're good. I'm down to talk about whatever too. No, I was thinking about that, and also thinking, so you were talking about kind of 2017, and I jumped into the Ryman shows to tell that story about Ron, but I I remember two shows. They came and played at Bass Concert Hall, which is a venue in Austin, and it's on the University of Texas Austin campus, and it's like it's a large concert hall where they play like classical shows, and sometimes they'll have like a comedy thing that'll come through there or various other big events, but a lot of it is like the classical symphony orchestra that's coming out of UT, like students. It's a really nice like concert hall, probably somewhere between 2,000-3,000 person venue. And I took a friend, my friend Don. It was his first time seeing TTB. I talked about him. He loved the shows. They played two shows. They were, I would probably pull up one of the set lists, but those were incredible. Those were a lot of fun. And then I remember they played like the three sets where they did the one like main opening set, and then they did this like acoustic set that they were playing, and then took a break and then came back and did full second set. That was like one of probably my favorite like Austin shows that I've seen here. And then told you about those Ryman shows. That was like right before the pandemic, because that was like February, right before everything hit.
I think those were the last shows, maybe the very last ones. Maybe.
It might have been either they were there, they went to Chicago or DC. It might have been the last shows that they did. I don't remember. And then obviously, watch the videos that were online, right? Like that they were doing out of their, I guess their
fireside
sessions. Yeah. And then came out and saw those first two Jacksonville shows that were those fireside, the 5-piece that was playing.
That wasn't the full band at that point, right? Those
right.
The Jacksonville shows, but it was the first time like kind of back on the road.
Yep.
Yeah, in 2021 or no, 2021. I think. Yeah. Oh man.
Something like that
together. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Somewhere in there. Yeah. And then these were some fun shows. And then that shortly after they went, I wanted to go, Red Rocks was been like on my bucket list to go see a show there. So they played 2 nights at Red Rocks. Then they played in Dillon, Colorado, and then they played in Beaver Creek. So I went to those 4 shows. The Red Rocks show was wild. I only saw half of the show. They played a first set, and at the end, they were playing Idle Wind. And after the big mega solo that Derek goes through, like, was it like 2/3 of the way in? At some point during that, it just starts to hail and storm like crazy.
I think I was watching on nugs.net. I think I remember that because the cameras stay on during the rain delay, and it looked like there were some people on some things, or it was a little bit entertaining to watch the rain or the whatever it was, the rain delay.
It must have been nice from the couch, dude. It was wild. It was wild. Like it started pouring and like coming down hard and hail, and then like the stairs were like flooding. Like it was a big flood of water coming down the stairs. So like even walking out of there was a little sketchy. And so everyone piled, there's no covering really. There's a few like little spots on the sides you can kind of cover under some awning, but there's really, in the wind blowing so hard, you're getting hit no matter what.
You're saying you left is what you're telling me.
Yeah. I went to my car.
You left in the 7th inning and the
dude, I left.
Back.
I know. It was wild. And about, I don't know, maybe an hour. I heard about an hour and a half later, they got back on. I waited for about 40 minutes, 40 minutes and left.
I have a few kind of regrets like that, music related regrets over the
Yeah.
years that I
Like
should have
what?
gone.
Did one come to mind?
Yeah, because I was and still am a big Guns N' Roses fan. I wish they would put out more music, and I wish that they would put out more studio albums, and that their live set list would be a little bit more varied, and the tickets would be cheaper. Those are my only complaints about Guns N' Roses. But
Yeah.
when they originally reunited, I think it was 2016 when Slash and Axl and Duff played their first real show together on the Sunset Strip at the Troubadour. Like, tickets were impossible to get, obviously. Like, they were turning away A-list celebrities from that place. But I still should have gone just to hang out and check it out and listen from
Yeah.
outside and be around other fans and just be part of the whole spectacle. That is one of the regrets, because I live 20 minutes from there or whatever. I could have definitely made it, but that's one that jumps out at me.
Yeah, no, I can relate. I I have that a little bit about. I caught Gary Clark Jr. early, but I only caught like one show, and he was playing a bunch, like in these like 50-person venues, like when I first moved here, and I didn't really know what I was watching, like at the time. And I caught one just like with a bunch of friends going out. We're like, oh, let's stop by the Continental Club, and sure enough, he's playing. But I didn't really think anything of it until like 10 years later, when he was starting to become a thing.
I saw him open for TTB. I forget what year, maybe 2014. It was at the Greek Theater in
Oh,
LA.
really?
Yeah, he opened for TTB, and he started playing slide, and
Uh-huh.
he prefaced it and gave sort of a disclaimer. He's like, I know Derek Trucks is in the house, but I'm gonna play it anyway. Just I want to, like, he kind of like, he was trying to manage expectations to some degree, but he had a sense of humor about it. And of course, he's a great player too, and that was fun to see him.
Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, I'm a big fan of his. Um, yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I'm going back to the timeline. So after what was the last show I told you about? So it was, came out.
The
So the
Ryman,
Colorado shows,
the
the Red Rocks. So
Red
I went to
Rocks in
Dillon.
Red
Yeah,
Rocks in 2021. Red Rocks or
yeah,
last year, not this year.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. 2021, and then I met a bunch of fans at the Dick's Sporting Goods the next day, or was at REI the next day, getting a bunch of gear to get ready for the next show, which was kind of fun. Yeah, it was kind of fun. We were like raiding the REI, right? Like everything was sold out of all the rain gear. But met a bunch of Tedeschi Trucks fans there. They were super fun. Ended up hanging out with a couple of them at the show. And then I went on to Dillon, which was a cool little outdoor amphitheater, right on the water. There's a lake there, mountains, just
Where's
beautiful.
that?
Dillon, Colorado. It's
another town in Colorado where TTB played, you're saying?
Yeah, if you head up from Denver, you hit Red Rocks right on the outskirts, and then you head into the mountains like Aspen Vale, like halfway there is Dillon. And they did 2 nights at Red Rocks, then they played a night at Dillon, and then they went into Beaver Creek, which was like Vale area. And Beaver Creek is like this tiny little village that you have to like go through. You have to go like through security to get into the little village area. And small, tiny town. And that was really neat little like theater that they played at that was pretty small, especially compared to the Red Rocks and the Dillon show. Just real intimate show. You could hear a pin drop when, they dropped into some of the solos, and Derek does this thing where he slows down, like everything just slows down and stops for a minute after some of the solo peaks.
Yeah, pin drop moments, like you're saying.
Oh yeah, totally. So I remember those were super fun. And then the next shows that I would have gone to is the Beacon. I don't know why this just popped up, but a fun one. I remember they played it at that show was "Loving You Is Sweeter Than Ever." It's an old Susan Tedeschi song that she did with her band. That's like, I think, Four Tops or somebody did.
Stevie Wonder, is that the most popular version of the song?
It
Stevie
probably
Wonder's
is.
version?
Yeah, it probably is. My wife and I danced. That was our first song that we danced to. So I'm always a sucker for hearing that song. Yeah. So I remember they played that at that theater. I was so happy taking video of it. Um, and then the last shows I've been to were I've always wanted to do Beacon. First time at the Beacon was this year, and I did the whole run.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was. Those are some of the best shows. Like, yeah, I don't know that I can put it into words. Like everyone kept telling me how different it is there, but I didn't really understand it until I was there, and got to experience like the whole kind of another level of, just intimacy and, conversation between the band and the audience. I felt like that was happening there. And just, having the 7 nights, just, I don't understand how it just keeps getting better and better every single
Yeah,
night.
I don't know. I guess because Derek makes the band rehearse or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
What
right.
But yeah, and also a lot of people have been raving, and you can put me down for this as well, is that the Beacon sound is top notch, the quality of the sound, and they've done some upgrades over the recent year, maybe even for this year. I think some people were commenting about, but that's definitely another thing as well. I want to ask you something about Red Rock, because Red Rocks, everyone says, is such a special place to go and a great place to see shows, and seems to be one of the bucket list quintessential places to see TTB. What is it about Red Rocks that's so special? Do I need to go there? Should I go there? Do I need to get hailed on, or should I
No,
just go to another city? Does it matter?
it was a neat place. I'm a tough one to ask for that. So it was kind of cool because Isaac Eady was, before he was officially announced into the band, he played one of the shows. I think it was the second show. He came and was playing with them. And it was before he was officially in the band because they were still doing the fireside. So that made it really special. You can see when it's clear out, you can see all the way from where you're at to the city skyline. The views are gorgeous. You're in this like natural, I mean, during the day, it's like a park. Like it's like a natural park to go and do hikes through. So like the setting of it, it's like you're in this natural Red Rock amphitheater. So there's a lot of that going on, and it's pretty big. Like there's no chair, like you're sitting on these like benches that are like carved into the Red Rocks. And so you feel like you're in nature, right? So I think there's a pretty special feeling. Now I'm a tough one to ask though, because the weather situation kind of sucked for my experience, at least the first night. The second night was awesome though. It's cool. I'm trying to think of like, because I've been to a lot of venues. It's probably one of the best outdoor venues I've still been to though. I want to go to the Gorge out in Seattle. I've heard good things about that, or outside of Seattle and Washington. I don't think Tedeschi Trucks plays there regularly, but I've heard good things about it.
Is there like a spiritual quality even to going to a show at Red Rocks and just being out there in nature? Is there something that makes you feel even that much more connected to something beyond yourself just because of the setting? Is there something to that, or is that just
I think so. I believe in all the like woo woo stuff, so I think
I do a little bit. Yeah
I don't like I don't know that it hit me on that trip. It was probably because I was just like, Texas boy trying to figure out this cold, crazy weather with the rainstorm. And that was like overtaking my mind a little bit.
I get that.
Yeah. So I've been saying like, I want to go back because I want to go and do it when it's like good weather, and give it like another full shot. But I'm not the best one to ask because I left like that.
You're an honest man.
Fun experience. Like
you're not.
Yeah.
you're an honest man. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your time. And I feel like I've taken up a ton of it. And I don't want to take up too much longer. I know we could probably both go on all day talking TTB. I kind of asked you this already in so many words, but like you've gone to so many shows in different cities and had some interaction with some of the band members. But does TTB, anyone in the band, do they recognize you when they see you? Does crew recognize
Oh,
you, or other fans or anything like that? Like how's like the community aspect from band crew and fans like been for you over the years? Like I guess that's my question.
yeah, I don't think the band has any idea who I am. And I'm not like a loud, boisterous, like big social kind of person that, and I'm not like going for the set list every time. I've gotten
Yeah.
a few picks randomly. Um, got lucky. I think Susan was probably throwing it to somebody else, and I just got lucky. It came to me. So I don't think they noticed me. There's a handful of fans that I've met though. A few at the Beacon. I had a lot of fun meeting and saw them multiple nights. I actually met some guys from Chicago one night, and I was by myself at the Beacon, and the following night they had an extra ticket, invited me to come hang out with them, and they were like on the 7th row. So I sat with them and hung out with them the whole show. So like the fans have just been nothing but sweet. One of the guys I met in Jacksonville, we started texting each other and we saw each other at the last show at the Beacon, and caught up. And there was a guy, I think David Flam. I'd seen him at the Nashville shows, like wearing his like gear, his shirts. And I saw him.
Customized T-shirts with lyrics and song titles and whatnot.
Yeah. And so I had noticed him, and I ended up being right next to him at one show at the Beacon and started talking it up to him. And we were getting pumped, trying to figure out which song was coming on when we heard the first notes. And
I've had the same kind. We've all had these same conversations, and many of us with David Flam, of course, multiple time guest of this show. Yeah, it's been super cool, and a lot of the fans like really do want to, share their tickets or sell their tickets to people that they know are going to appreciate the band. Like that's definitely a thing, and like part of, I think, the culture. And I think the culture of the fans and the fandom is pretty good overall. With any community or subculture, you're gonna get like, trolls, haters, people who don't act in good faith, and bad eggs and all those kinds of things. But overwhelmingly, like the TTB fan community, I think, has been awesome and is awesome. And that really all stems from the top. It stems, I think, from Derek and Susan and the tone they set by, at least from afar, looking at the way that they treat each other and treat the band, and with their professionalism and down to earthiness, if I may. Like, I think that's all a tone set by the band, which I think is pretty unique. And I think we're lucky to have been really a part of it, pretty for me and you specifically, since like the beginning following this band, because like you don't get that kind of like access, not even like sometimes literal personal access, like to the band, getting a chance to just say hello and thank them or something like that. But just in terms of like how they present themselves and how down to earth and, again, accessible they are, and how normal and human they are, and that's definitely appreciated and makes the whole TTB fandom experience that much more rich and deep and awesome on a whole nother level. What else do we need to cover? Anything else? What else you got for me?
Well, no, the way in which they express love through their music and the love they have for each other, I think, just to what you're saying, I think that just comes through, and I think hits us all in a way that shows us how to treat each other. And I think that's something special that they do, like, without even saying it. It's just like their actions and the behaviors are an example of just how to be, how we could be.
Right. It's
It's
interesting because, like, I guess one of like a fear, like somewhere around in the back of my mind, is like this may not be a thing. This band may not be a thing forever for whatever reason. Like it could end. That's bands come and go over the years. But these sort of like bonds that you're referring to seem to be like being strengthened, and their love for each other, and them, at least from afar as a fan. Like I'm not with them on a day-to-day basis. I'm sure there's ups and
Yeah.
downs. Of course, it's not an easy business, and it's not an easy thing to juggle family and your professional life. But it seems like they're pretty damn good at it, to the point where I find it like inspiring, and sort of like even things I could learn from them just from watching them and listening to them, and just like from their leadership, and to see how like Derek leads a group, and the respect for music, and the same for Susan with her role in the band, and how she commands an audience, and commands the stage, and beyond her amazing voice and guitar playing, keeps the train and the event moving along, and hits all the right notes literally, and doing all the intros and saying all the kind words to the fans and the band. Like, it's just super impressive, and just there's just little details I think that even I can learn and apply to my life, like from just watching and being a fan of them. And I appreciate that. And again, like I fear that this may not be a thing someday, but like their actions are showing me that the opposite. It's like they have a lot of music left in them. And I think this band specifically, not just Derek, Susan, and everyone within it, but
Right.
the band as a whole, and the band specifically, has a lot more coming. Maybe 2024 we'll get another new album from them. Next year, I don't know if we're gonna get any new music. Maybe some new covers and some new stuff.
Yeah.
On the road, and some deep cuts or things they haven't played. But they always do that. That's why we love it. Like, we always kind of can guess what they're gonna play at any given show beforehand, because we kind of, as hardcore fans, kind of know what they've been playing lately, what's their newer songs. But eventually they're just like, all right, we played Don't Know What It Means like 5,000 times over the last 3 years. We're gonna kind of like take a break from that. But that maybe we're gonna get more of that coming back, like, because it's gonna pop, and like, and again, they find a way to make things fresh. And obviously with Isaac in the band now, he adds his own element to things. So like, I'm looking forward to the old stuff coming back, and the current stuff continuing, and new things finding their way into set lists. And I'm jealous and envious of all the people who are going to get to go to shows in early 2023. But I'll find my way to some next year. I'm sure maybe I'll end up doing all 7 at the Beacon. We'll see if I can make that happen. But maybe that's a goal for me. But on that note, I appreciate your time, my friend. Anything you want to plug or promote, or let people know how they can find or follow you? I don't know if you're a public figure per se, but maybe you want to let people know where they can find your nonprofit. I'll kind of give you the floor to do that.
Yeah, I'll plug the nonprofit. It's just United Music Experience. You can find it on Instagram at United Music Experience, and then just go to unitedmusicexperience.com .org and check it out. You can find me I'm planning to go to the Ryman shows. I'm planning to go to the DC shows. I think it's like the first weekend of March. Those three. That one worked out perfectly. I have a work event the following week. And then I'm going to be in Chicago shows, visiting my sister, and going to those two like the end of March. So maybe I'll see you or some of the other folks there.
Yeah, and if not there, you're welcome to come back on and recap more shows and whatnot. I mean, I'd even be down to like do a live stream and just like get a little informal thing, like, hey, I'm hanging out at the venue. I just saw so and so, like, little on the ground thing. I think that might be fun. I just want to continue to put out more content. But on that note, I appreciate your time. I'll let you get on with the rest of your evening. What are you, 1 time zone ahead of me?
Yeah. Yeah, 2 time zones.
But
thanks
cheers.
for having me, Adam.
Oh, for sure. Thank you, sir. I'll let you get on with the rest of your evening.
All right. Thanks, man. Enjoyed it a lot.
Oh, for sure. Take care.
Cheers.
Peace. So there you go. Episode 98 with Jeff Fink. That was super fun. I definitely appreciate his time. So many great stories. We could continue on talking all day about TTB. I'm not just saying that. I really believe that. And we could get going. We could, just because if I start pulling up set lists and albums and other things, we talk about this stuff all day. And I kind of want to. And that's obviously why I started doing this podcast in the first place, because I was already having all these conversations off air. So I figured, why not record them? And that's how a lot of podcasts have gotten started actually over the years. It's just like, oh, these are kind of interesting conversations. They're conversations I enjoy having and could continue to have. So might as well turn it into something and share it with other people in hopes that they might enjoy and appreciate it as well. But on that note, hope everyone is doing okay out there. Please check out Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. Please be sure to subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, iTunes, Spotify. Of course, subscribe on YouTube. I'm at Adam Choid on Instagram and Twitter. My other podcast is People We Love Podcast, peoplewelovepodcast.com for that one. TheEditedMovie.com for my short film that I wrote and directed. Tedeschi Trucks Band.com for all things related to the band. That's their official site. Buy tickets, buy the merch, join the Swamp Family Club. Everything is worth it. Totally cool stuff on there. Tedeschi Trucks Band.com for that. But I think that's about all I got for today. Getting close to episode number 100. I am working on something hopefully special or special enough for that. Looking forward to hitting that milestone. But again, thank you everyone for listening, for the support. I appreciate it. And let's talk soon. Later, guys.